Hey everyone, our warm-up topic for today is negatives. So if you already feel confident with negatives, if you'd like to skip this video and move to the practice, you may, but if you'd like a quick review, here you go. So one thing I find helpful with negatives is just reviewing it visually. So if you draw a number line, we've got the negatives to the left of 0, the positives to the right of 0. So if I had negative 8 plus 4, if I start at negative 8 on the number line, and then plus 4 means I'm going in the positive direction 4. So I'd be moving 1, 2, 3, 4. So I've reached negative 4, so negative 8 plus 4 is negative 4. If I did negative 3 minus 5, remember minus is the same thing as doing a plus negative 5. So if I start at negative 3, which would be here, and then I add on a negative 5 to that, I'm going in the negative direction. So I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's brought me to negative 8. So negative 3 minus 5, or negative 3 plus negative 5, is negative 8. So that's one way to look at negatives, is with a number line. Another way to look at negatives, there's a few just tricks that I use. So if I see a minus and negative, that's the same thing as plus positive. Another way to visualize it is if you write 3 minus negative 2, you could connect the minus and the negative together and put a line through the middle, and that makes your plus sign. So when you're doing a minus and negative, it becomes plus positive or just a plus. So that's going to give us 5. When you have a negative minus a positive number, I really prefer looking at that as plus negative, like I showed you on the last slide. So when I see negative 3 plus negative 5, I can think of it as 3 plus 5 is 8, and they're both negative, so this becomes negative as well. 8 minus 13, I don't have a lot of tricks for this one. Sometimes I still write it as 8 plus negative 13, and then I see the negative number is like the 13's larger than 8, so when you do an 8 and a negative 13, it's kind of like 13 minus 8 is 5, and then 13 was the bigger number and it was negative, so it's going to be negative 5. And then negative 8 plus 4, you really could just look at it that way. If you prefer, you could write it as 4 plus negative 8, if that helps you. Or you could write it as 4 minus 8. All of those mean the same thing. So whichever way works best for you to know that that equals negative 4. You also can just use a calculator. You won't be prevented from using a calculator in this course. And then quick review, hopefully you know that if you do a negative times a positive, you get a negative number. And then if you do a negative times a negative, you're going to get a positive number. Same thing with division. If you do a positive divided by a negative or a negative divided by a positive, you're going to get a negative value. So one positive, one negative is a negative. And then if you have a negative divided by a negative, you're going to get a positive. So negative times a negative is a positive. Same thing with a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So that's the end of this video. If you want to go try some practice problems over negatives, you can go do that now.